BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Farming Today podcast with me, Charlotte Smith. In this episode, a warning for tenant farmers as a Yorkshire solar farm gets the go-ahead. We'll have more on that later. First, farmers have long had concerns about the way supply chains work, the many hands our food passes through between the growers and supermarket shelves. They say they shoulder too much of the risk and don't reap enough of the rewards. Well, to help, an Agricultural Supply Chain Adjudicator has been appointed, in the first instance to enforce new rules aimed at improving transparency and fairness in the dairy sector. Similar regulations to cover pigs are expected this spring, and then the plan is to look at eggs and fresh produce. Well, all this week we are going to look at supply chains, from farmer cooperatives to carbon emissions. And to start, I spoke to the Agricultural Supply Chain Adjudicator, Richard Thompson, who told me that even though his role is relatively new, farmers have been in touch.
We've seen a number of issues raised with us in confidence by farmers over the past 9 months or so. The regulations have been in force. We've yet to receive a formal complaint, but I don't think that's particularly surprising for a couple of reasons. Firstly, the new regulations have a 12-month transitional period, so it's only from July of this year that they apply to the whole of the dairy sector. And secondly, of course, during much of last year, we also saw average milk prices rising. So I think it's if we see prices falling again in the future that we're much more likely to see more farmers coming to us with their complaints.
Isn't there a problem too with the way the system works? Because to bring a problem to you, a farmer has to be named and therefore may feel exposed because they are criticising the hand that feeds them, in criticising the people who pay them.
So I think it's a normal feature of this sort of process that someone being complained about, a business being complained about, will have the right to know the identity of who's bringing the complaint and the nature of the allegations against them. But I am very conscious of this worry that some farmers may worry about the risks of making a formal complaint. And that's why farmers and indeed third parties and representatives can also contact us in confidence. I think what's really important is that farmers feel they do have a route to come and talk to us about the problems they're experiencing so that we can create that evidence base of issues that may still exist.
The National Farmers Union wants you to be able to proactively investigate something without necessarily needing a named complainant. They think that would work better. Would you like to see your powers extended in that way?
Certainly where I hear of issues being raised with me, it's not the case that we will sit and do nothing because we haven't had a formal complaint raised by a farmer. It's probably important to recognise that the regulations are brand new and it's the first intervention of this kind in supply chain relationships at the farm gate. And I think we'll learn a lot over the coming months as to whether the regulations are achieving the policy objective of increasing transparency and fairness. I think there's an awful lot we can do with the current regulations, and I'm keen to push and test to see how far we can go in securing that positive and fair supply chain relationships.
The Agricultural Supply Chain Regulator there, Richard Thompson. Fishing is facing a shortage of workers. Fewer people are coming from the European Union to work here, and many older fishermen who retire aren't being replaced. Well, at South Devon College, they're hoping to attract new recruits to the industry, and as part of that drive, they organised an event in collaboration with the charity The Fisherman's Mission, where the older generation of fishermen met those just starting out or considering a career at sea. Fiona Clampin went along to hear what the young can learn from the not-so-young.
Who wants to drive first?
Back at the helm once again, only this time, for these retired fishermen, it's not quite as they remember it.
Move forward, Patrick. I've got to slide this chair up to you. How's that, right?
The new bridge simulator at South Devon College allows students to experience life at sea before they've even gone on board, something that seems unimaginable to fishermen in their 70s and 80s.
So if you head up as if you're going to head towards Brixham, Patrick?
This kind of equipment I never had. I'm going back 50 years.
It's not like I've been used to. chain steering, just a compass most of my life.
Turned the clock back, going up Plymouth Sound on the simulator on a boat with a good shot of fish aboard to land at the market, which is sadly no longer there. I come ashore about 6-7 years, but I haven't lost the passion.
You can see it's making you feel like you're on
Oh,
sea.
yeah.
So if it's working for you, it's going to work for the youth.
Well, I'm standing with my legs apart. There you go. I'm braced.
While the technology is undoubtedly changed, it's the commitment to fishing these men can still pass on to people just starting out.
Applying for jobs on vessels, like do you go into harbours and see who's hiring or...
Once you've got your tickets, there's quite a lot of places online that a crew find us. Find a fishing boat is a big online. They're always got crew certificates. But to be honest, if you want to stay local, just go and speak down the harbour. At the minute, there's real crew shortages. Yeah. So if you've got your tickets, anyone will be willing to give you a chance. Yeah.
Definitely, especially crabbing.
She was an old Belgian boat and she blew up.
Really?
And we picked the two bodies up. And that was my first day fishing.
I noticed you were having a really good discussion, the two of you. Yes. What kind of stories have you shared?
We got into it.
Yeah, we got into it, yeah.
And where we're from?
Well, I come down from Appledore. I worked in a boatyard, building fishing boats. 1966 was the first time I went to sea on a crabber called the Annie Jones from Dartmouth.
What's it like meeting young men who are wanting to go into the industry?
Well, it's good to see people coming on into the industry. It's a way of life more than a job. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you hate it, and that's it. But the money's usually good, so...
How about you?
I got into fishing. All my family's been doing it. My grandparents and my dad, my uncle, all from the same Torquay Harbour. And I've just been doing it as long as I can remember. Dad's going out with Dad, and now I've turned 18. It's my turn to skip of the boat and do my bit. And I'm looking forward to a life on the sea.
It gives you an idea of what it's actually going to be like, seeing people that have actually lived it, and you have no idea what it's like, hearing the dangers, hearing the pros and cons of it.
So you're not put off? I mean, you've been hearing a lot of the stories, as you say, and the danger as well.
Yeah, the danger, there's danger everywhere. I used to work on the building site. There's just as much danger on the building site than there is on a boat. So my granddad always tried to get me in the fishing industry, which I wish I learned when I was younger because I had no interest and I would have flew through this course. Yeah, I just want to follow in his footsteps, make him proud, make my family proud. Just want to get out there.
Jordan Mills from Brixham in Devon, about to start his career in commercial fishing. The Tenant Farmers Association says the government's decision to allow a solar project on farmland in Yorkshire is crushing for farmers who rent land. Harmony Energy can now build a solar farm with battery storage on land owned by the Fitzwilliam Trust near Malton. The tenant farmers who currently farm there have campaigned for the past 4 years to halt the project. Rob and Emma Sturdy are the second generation of the family to work the farm and have a 3-generation tenancy. But Emma said she's now worried about their future.
We face now losing 42% of our land. You know, it'll be very difficult to keep a viable business now. And when you've spent years, generations of investment and time and energy and care into a business and a farm and the land, to know that you're not going to get anything back from that is fairly devastating, really. I genuinely don't know where we will go from here.
Well, the Sturdys could now appeal to the High Court. George Dunn, the Chief Executive of the Tenant Farmers Association, asks what happened to government reassurances that an expansion of renewable power wouldn't come at the expense of tenant farmers.
It is somewhat concerning when you read through the 142-page decision of the inspector and the Secretary of State that they have detailed to a large extent the impact of this development on the tenant farmer, and they say how exceptional it is and how difficult it will be for the tenant farmer, and yet they still find that the application for the solar farm should be taken forward. And it is very concerning for us in advising other members of the Tenant Farmers Association about where the threshold is.
It is a difficult balance, this, isn't it? Because obviously the government is very keen to get more renewable energy, and landlords are also under pressure financially and are keen to get a guaranteed income, which is what a solar farm on your land would offer.
It is a balanced and a difficult decision, but let's go back to what the Prime Minister said when he was leader of the opposition in February 2023, when he said he wanted to see more solar farms across the country, but he absolutely said that should not be at the expense of tenant farmers who need to know that the soil beneath their feet is secure. So we accept these things are balanced, but the public policy here, from our perspective, was quite clear going into this.
Looking to the future and to other decisions, when you look at the land use framework, which is out for consultation at the moment, that does seem to differentiate between very good farmland and just farmland, doesn't it? So is that perhaps the future, that if you're a tenant and you're on grade 1 farmland, you're fine, and if not, you're at risk?
And what I would say, Charlotte, is we need to understand that the concentration of tenant farmers in the country tends to be on that poorer land, because traditionally, historically, estates have farmed their better land in hand and let out their less better land to other individuals to farm it. And a lot of that land is now designated as sites of special scientific interest or areas of outstanding natural beauty. And those are the areas that the government is now targeting to take that land out of agriculture into environmental uses, which will mean a higher proportion of tenant farmers will be affected by that. So we are urgently asking the government, how are they going to deliver the public policy promise that was given to my sector by the Prime Minister in opposition now that he is in government?
George Dunn from the Tenant Farmers Association. That's it from us. I'm Charlotte Smith. The producer is Heather Simons, and Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.